thank you. Welcome to the Milford Board of Selectmen meeting, June 5th, 2017. First item of the agenda, of a very long agenda tonight, is the signing of the warrant.
I'll make a motion to sign the warrant.
I'll second that.
I'll also vote in favor, that's unanimous. We also have 3 sets of meeting minutes, excuse me. The first is for a regular session on May 16th.
Mr. Chairman, if we could, if we could break these out.
Sure.
Oh, you are.
Yep,
you are.
I'm going to take them one at a time, yeah.
Okay, so for the minutes of May 16th, I'll abstain because I simply wasn't present.
I will make the motion to accept.
All right, I'll second that. All in favor? 2 in favor, 1 abstention. The next is for a regular session on May 22nd.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor? That's unanimous.
May 8th, right?
May 8th.
May 8th.
Yeah, where is that?
Right here.
Oh, that's the one I turned, okay, sorry. And the other one is for a regular session on May 8th.
Moved.
Second.
I'll also vote in favor. So that's unanimous. Next agenda item is invitation to speak. Is anyone here for invitation to speak regarding the agenda this week? Okay. First public hearing is for Bugaboo Creek, a transfer of license. Attorney Antonellis?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Nice to see you all.
Nice to see you as well.
Joseph Antonellis on behalf of the applicant. With me is Brian Roach, who is the individual that's named as the potential manager, should this board be so inclined as to grant the transfer of the license.
Okay. I'm just going to read the notice if I could. The Board of Selectmen hereby gives notice that it has received an application from Capital BC Restaurants, LLC, doing business as Bugaboo Creek Steakhouse, 124 Medway Road, Milford, Massachusetts, seeking to transfer the restaurant, all alcoholic license and location to Bug Restaurant Holdings, LLC, at 120 to 128 Medway Road. The proposed manager is Brian Roach. The premise is located at 120 to 128 Medway Road, is a 1-floor-story building with 1 entrance and 2 exits. The building is 7,260 square feet, more or less. Abutters and interested parties are invited to attend the hearing and to participate in the discussion. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138 as amended, the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on said application on Monday, June 5th, 2017, at 7:00 p.m. in Room 3 of Milford Town Hall, 52 Main Street, Milford, Massachusetts. And with that, Joe.
Thank you,
I'll turn
Mr.
it
Chairman. By way of introduction, this is the license that is presently held by the Bugaboo Steakhouse. I think the board knows that Bugaboo has entered into a bankruptcy proceeding, and my client, who is the owner of the plaza, RD Management, has a subsidiary wing, and they have negotiated a purchase agreement for the liquor license pending the approval of the transfer. The intention is to have the license be situated basically in the newer building that's being built. Brian Roach, who's here with me, has a very long relationship with RD Management, has been very instrumental in helping them secure tenants. And this is part of in essence, a joint venture with the company to formulate a new restaurant facility here in Milford. And Brian will tell you that he's still actively seeking a potential food manager and someone who might be able to help him with exactly how to best set up a theme for this particular restaurant. The restaurant will be family-oriented, more of a pub-oriented, not more of a regular price and a family-style menu than a fine dining restaurant. There is, as you know from your view of the property and your involvement with other permits with RD Management, there is a substantial amount of activity going on the site right now, which is including the rehabilitation of the large building, where there is another license pending, which was the one we received from Truffles, and then there is the significant amount that will happen to the building that this particular unit will be in, as well as the construction of a new freestanding building. I was missed out on getting a couple of signatures from New York, notarized. I actually sent my FedEx package to the corporate office, the resident corporate office here in Massachusetts, in haste to get things done because your staff is so thorough and reminds me of what I haven't done all properly. But I missed on that. I will swear that I will get that done, and I'll stop talking and see if there are any questions from the board. Thank you.
Great. Other thing I'll go through is the department head review form. The building commissioner signs off that it's an allowable use. The town planner mentions a planning board special permit and site plan was approved on 2/21 of 2017. There are no longer any outstanding taxes. There was a small balance, and that was paid. The town treasurer has no issues. The police chief has no issues, and the fire chief did attach a letter. I don't think I necessarily have to go through all of this, but you guys are
Can't get-
aware
we're
of it.
Very well aware of the letter, and I don't mean to think that we didn't pay any attention to it. It's just that the structure's gonna be completely rehabilitated to code.
Okay.
And so during that time, we'll obviously have to be involved with the fire department and all of the other departments in Milford to make certain that the access, egress, and fire safety codes are all brought up to standards.
All right, that's terrific. I don't have any questions, but I'll turn it over to the board. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, the change in manager, the change in manager is, it appears from the application, it's a formality just to hold it for now, but is that accurate?
Brian intends to be involved in it, and whether how long he stays involved once we get it up and going will be a matter of, I think, due to his family. He's married, got a couple of young kids, and I'm not sure how much time he's gonna wanna spend, but that's a very good question. I would anticipate that you will see an application for a change of manager not long afterwards.
And, yeah, and the reason I ask that is just for clarification, because I don't need to go over Mr. Roach's history and background in liquor management or restaurant management. I understand what's being done here, and I appreciate your candor.
And I will tell you, Mr. Buckley, that to the extent that Brian is there at the opening, he will have by that time attended all of the necessary TIF courses and obtained all the certifications. He's aware of that. He's already looked into where those courses are held, and he has other management skills relative to retail, so I think he could fit the bill if he has to stay. But your point is absolutely correct. The intention is to hopefully get a professional manager in at that time.
And lastly, between you and the chairman, you addressed the other questions that I had that our staff had made us aware of with regard to property taxes and the Milford Fire Department concerns relative to the alarms and the sprinkler system, so.
Right, and those, just for the record, those taxes that were owed were actually owed by Bugaboo. And so we, as part of the proceedings with the bankruptcy, we didn't have access to that, but we paid them, and we'll work that out with the bankruptcy trustee later.
And for the benefit of the public, I just wanted to be clear, it wasn't a significant amount, it was $842.85.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make it clear that folks weren't in the rear, $10,000 or $20,000, as some might be. I don't have any more questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mike?
Just for clarity, Mr. Antonellis, the property is owned by the same company that's renovating the existing building. So
That is correct.
They control all the property.
They control every bit of it,
And
that's
what their
correct.
ultimate goal is, at some point in the project, they're gonna rehab the old Bugaboo Creek and rename it into
Right.
some family-style pub.
That's correct.
So they're just looking to
Right.
secure everything right now
Secure
through the
everything,
process.
correct.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other
Thank you.
questions either.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, I'd like to make three motions, I'll make them individually. Approve request to transfer all alcoholic license, and the change of manager to Brian LaRoche. The second motion is to approve the request to transfer a common vitular license, consistent with the permit application. And then lastly, to approve the request for a change of location from 124 Midway, let's see, maybe make sure I get this, Medway Road to 120-128 Medway Road.
Is there a second?
And I would second those.
Okay. I'll also vote in favor. I believe that's unanimous.
Thank you very much, and
Good night.
as always.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
Thank you,
very
thank
much.
you to your staff for all of their cooperation in getting the applications done, I appreciate it.
Joe, thank
Thanks.
you for your explanations.
Appreciate
Makes
it.
it clear and easy.
Thank you, good night.
Good night now.
Take
Take care. Nice talking to you earlier.
Next agenda item, a treasures and trinkets, secondhand license, common vitular. Is there anyone here for that? Come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good,
Gentlemen?
thank you.
If you want to take a second, just introduce yourself, and then we can go through our forms here, so.
My name is Hadassah Rose. I have owned the Gonrivka Center, the Women and Children's Homeless Shelter here in Milford for the past 10 years. And we started a store that is selling the overflow of donations so that we can keep the Women and Children's Homeless Shelter running. We're the nation's only pet-friendly Women and Children's Homeless Shelter.
Okay, very good. All right. Let's see.
And we added a portion, because we got a new location, that is perfect for like a little diner, cafe area. And we are wanting to do a bread bowl cafe, which will feature all bread bowl items: pasta in a bread bowl, soup in a bread bowl, salad in a bread bowl, fruit salad in a bread bowl, cheese and fruits in a bread bowl, things like that.
Very good. Great. We received the license application for the common victualler and secondhand antique dealer. It's located at 319 and a half Main Street.
Yes, sir.
You have your hours of Sunday and Thursday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Mondays and Wednesdays, 12 noon to 6 p.m., and closed Friday and Saturdays. Okay. And the department head review form, the building commissioner, it's in the CB zone, allowable use. The building and restrooms are not accessible. Town planner, no change to actual use, no outstanding taxes. And then the town treasurer, fire chief, and police chief also do not have any issues or concerns. So I guess I'll turn it over to the board if there's any other specific questions. Thank you for your introduction.
Hi, Bill Buckley. Just out of curiosity, is your business currently open now?
The restaurant part is not open. We have been doing just the sales of the clothes and things that have overflow of the donations. Mostly what we're doing is just using it as an office to do our intakes for the women and children. And then we keep sheets there, and we do welcome bags so that when the residents come, I'm able to do their paperwork there and give them, they get a shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, toothbrush, and a bag, and a folder with very, very important paperwork for them to get other resources. And since they are required in the first month of coming to the center to get a job, we also teach application writing and emails and all kinds of different help.
Life skills.
Yes, sir, life skills.
Okay. So first of all, I applaud you for what you're doing. I know there's a significant amount of women and children who have difficulty various times in their life, and knowing that there's a bed and a place is always helpful. What I was trying to establish, though, is there retail currently happening, retail sales currently happening now at the building?
Just the clothes,
The close.
just the clothes.
And is that what we're issuing a license for?
The victualers, the common
Yeah, victualler, yep.
Yes.
So for benefit of the public and for benefit of yourself, should you choose to expand or license with the community, it's beneficial not to get in the business of the selling before the licenses are granted.
Sorry.
That's all right. I just, for anybody who might have questions why we're issuing a license for activity that's already happening, this is the first time the board has seen the application.
Okay.
Okay.
It's more for the restaurant part, though, not it's both, but.
But
it
both,
is.
you
Yes,
you
sir.
didn't have a license for retail prior to this evening, should the board approve it.
Yes, sir.
And while there was retail going on, I didn't know if the board was aware, but I wanted to at least say that for benefit of public. No, I don't have any additional questions. I think I understand what the plan is. We have department head review, which makes it clear. And again, thank you for what you do for helping some women and families
Thank you, Mr.
navigate
Buckley.
through the process, and I know that's difficult. And that's all
Mr. Chairman, just before, if I may, before you do vote,
Yep.
Board of Health obviously has to be subject to.
That was gonna be
her
some of my comments,
Getting
yeah.
all of the necessary food handlers and required permits and licenses,
Yes.
and I think she's aware of that, so
sir.
any issuance would be subject to that.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, that answers my final question,
The
Mike.
question I have is only because I drive by every day. I see the store. Where is the restaurant?
So when you walk in, the store is on the left side and the restaurant inside is on the right. Right now, it's not being used as a restaurant. It's just all set up and ready to go whenever we get the license. We've never one time sold anything at all.
So when you do go to use the restaurant, is it going to be used to package foods that people can come pick up and take that they don't have? Or there's actually people can come in and sit down
They
and
can
get it?
actually sit down.
Okay, and will the meal be free?
No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
because the whole idea is to raise money to
Run
keep
my-
the shelter
okay.
going.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
But we do have free meals for the residents, and we do that on Monday and Thursday.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, great. No, and Rick, thank you, because I was wondering why there was no activity from the Board of Health, but that'll be down the road?
Correct.
Okay, once everything's in, okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve common victular license, subject to Board of Health review and their determination. In addition, I'd like to make a motion to approve secondhand antique dealer permit.
Okay,
I would second that.
all right. All those in favor? It's unanimous. You're all set?
You're all
Good luck
set.
and have a good night.
Again, thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
I'm just going to go out of order, if that's okay, for a second, since all the members of the Portuguese Club are right here. Do you guys want to come up next? The next agenda item is for the Portuguese Picnic one-day licenses. All right, gentlemen, if you just want to introduce yourself for those few people out there that may not know who you two gentlemen are.
I'm Joe Gonçalves. Is the manager for the Milford Portuguese Club. This people is part of the manager of the crew. So Vitor, Benny, Maria, Arminda, Vitor.
Perfect. No, thank you very much. Chief, do you want to take it from here, or?
Sure.
Okay.
So the license that's before you is the annual license for the Portuguese picnic this year to take place on the 15th and 16th of July. As in past years, Saturday is from noontime to 1 a.m. The music stops at 12:15 a.m. From 2 to 6 p.m., there's one officer. From 6 to 2 a.m., there are 10 police officers, 2 supervisors. Sunday, 12 noon to 11 p.m., music stops at 10:45. Again, one officer in the early afternoon, 12 to 4, and then the 10 officers and 2 supervisors, 4 to midnight. The 2 beer wagons where draft beer is served will be situated as they have been in years past in the central part of the parking lot area. Again, meeting the requirements of ABCC, they can only serve 2 drinks at any given time to someone that is of proper age. They will have the ID bracelets and the area where people's identification is checked before they get the bracelet. Emergency access, handicap access will be as it has been in years past. Another request that's before you is to have the annual parade, which commences from Sacred Heart parking lot coming up. We did move it one year to St. Mary's. So it's wherever Joe wants me to start it, we're gonna start there. And then up Main Street to Water Street, and Water Street to Prospect Heights, where some time is spent at the monument within the Heights before people proceed down to the club itself. And then there's a number of different traditional activities that take place, from music and dance, and there are young people and older people that come from literally around New England to participate in the parade and to bring those traditions back home here to Milford. So I meet with Joe and with members of the board literally within days after we close out the event in a given year, just to recap everything, and as the board knows, I informed the board of what took place or didn't take place. And from there, Joe and I and Benny and some of the others get together over the course of the year just to once again look at how we perform, the police department, because we've changed how we, assign people within the property. And then just making sure that we're all on the same page and that things are gonna be done right. So, Joe and I have had, probably over the past year, we've probably met 6 times to discuss different plans, even though, as you see it on paper, it appears to be very similar. The actual application, as the event takes place, And it's all subject to change. You know, built in there are the issues that we dealt with a number of years ago, as Billy will recall, dealing with the issue of, you know, volume of music and things of that kind. And I tend to float around town at different hours during the evening and just get out of the cruiser and stand there and
See if you can hear it.
see if it's bothering me, you know? And if it is, I go back and have a conversation with Joe, and we take care of things.
Great. Just for the public, we're going to be voting on a permit to obstruct, an entertainment license, and a one-day application for serving purposes. Bill, any questions, concerns?
No, you know, I'm gonna say some of the same things I've said in years past. I think, the management, along with the police department and police chief specifically, have, gone through a continuous improvement process, really, that, kind of iterates and improves upon each year. We have had some instances in the past, where there's been some difficulty, and not as a result of the club, more a result of the patrons. I know the chief has worked through those. I see a lot of those solutions here and ways to mitigate that the chief has worked with the management of the club. And again, I want to thank you for bringing to this board and bringing to this community an opportunity for those of us who didn't grow up Portuguese to hear the music, to see the dance, to see the traditional clothing, and to be able to celebrate in the same way that you might, by being there and observing it in a safe manner with our families. So we thank you for the cultural event, and we know it's a party as well. It's a celebration in a lot of different ways, and we know that cooperation with the chief has been strong. Music is the #1 challenge that I hear. I would say be mindful of it after 11 o'clock, and as provided within the application, adjust the music volumes accordingly. And sometimes it's based on weather, sometimes it's based on wind. It can be a lot of different factors that will carry that music, but it can be quite loud a distance away. So as the evening goes on, I know it's happened in the past that we bring it down a little bit. But thank you again for bringing the event to our town, and especially for those of us that didn't grow up in Portuguese households. We get an opportunity to see that, so thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Chief, the first question I had, I thought you said it was coming out of Sacred Heart Church?
Yes, but we did one year, we moved it up, but,
Because the application says St. Mary's.
and that's what, St. Mary's, okay.
Yeah.
See,
Oh, okay.
So that's the confusion. It's
Okay.
on me.
No problem.
They don't want to walk as far. Joe and I are both getting
Last
too old.
Along with my fellow board members, I have to tell you, when I first came to town, which was over 30 years ago, it was an event that was, had some colorful history to it. And since the chief has come to town, every year it gets better and better and better. And to get that large amount of people together and have the small amount of problems we have, I take my hat off to all of you. You work very, very hard. So, we greatly appreciate it, really. It's a fun night. 2 days, I should say. Especially for this Irish guy.
Thanks, Mike. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I hope that I can do this in the right order, but at least cover all the different requests. I'd make a motion to approve the annual picnic and beer sales as outlined by the chief's memorandum dated May 12, 2017. I'd also include in that motion the permit to obstruct to allow for the parade and the one-day liquor license as provided in the application.
I would second all those motions.
I'll also vote in favor, so that's unanimous.
And it's 2 one-day liquor licenses.
2 one-day liquor licenses.
All right.
Have a good night.
Congratulations, have fun.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you soon.
Good to see you again.
Hi, Chief.
Take care, thank you.
I'll see you, take care. And the food's pretty good.
Yeah.
I said, and the food's pretty good.
And they just recruited me to make steak and charisse that night, so that's great. The next agenda item is the tradesman one-day licenses. Rob, if you want to come on up.
story, different day.
You got it.
Congratulations, Mr. Walsh, Mr.
Thank you.
Buckley. Will, you're just awesome.
Thank you, pal. Would you just introduce yourself for the public?
Sure. Roger Dominic, own the tradesman. That's about it.
That's enough. All right. Well, I think obviously the public knows at this point as well. This is your third year?
It's fifth.
It's fifth? Wow. Wow, okay. It's
I
your
lose-
fifth
I
year,
lose
so.
track too.
Yeah, I'm way off, wow.
Third permit.
Oh, okay.
Bill,
Well, you know what? I'm gonna turn this over to you and the chief, and you can take it from here.
So again, as the board's aware, Rob and I, we do take a look at the event, just as we do the Portuguese picnic, and much of building this permit came off of those experiences and sitting down with Rob and working our way through. Some of Rob's things are a little trickier around the issue of parking and people walking on Route 140, et cetera. So, he's always been very, very receptive and appreciative of anything that we put on the table as far as recommendations, and has not yet balked. So he's very cooperative. Crowd control for this event is 3 police officers. One officer is there from 1 PM to 1 AM. It's actually 2 different officers, but the 12-hour period. So we go beyond midnight as we do at the picnic, because you have to have that transition time to allow people to get settled and then move along. There's real issues when you start to press people out of a site, particularly when there's large numbers of people. This event has grown year to year. So you have the 3 officers, and from there, again, identification, verification. Rob has stamps that are made. You can't just run out and have the stamp made because they don't know what stamp he's using. So he's used the stamps, the wristbands, but, so he has mechanisms built in to ensure the age of people. At this event, you don't tend to get
yeah,
the younger people. You don't get the large families, maybe earlier in the day.
it's actually 21 plus, there's no families.
So, but I mean, I've seen people where they just come by and they're stopping and then, grab some food and they're on their way. So you just don't, it's a different dynamic in this event. As far as parking, we did take a good look at Route 140 because it can prove to be difficult with the guardrails. What was happening is people park on both sides. You couldn't get 2 lanes of traffic through, and that, one of the complaints that came to us, and we readily recognize it, it can be a detriment to ambulances that are going to or from the hospital from communities, Upton, Grafton, et cetera. So we've worked on that and taken a look at the highway and how we keep those lanes open, so you get 2 passing lanes, but also so that we have a pedestrian way. So that's what a lot of the coning is about, is to allow people that do park either up along Route 140 or off onto Asylum Street or other side streets. Rob does have a relationship with Benny Pinto and Dominic Afonso to use the plazas that are up, so up near Warner Car and the pizza shop across the street.
And a new one this year.
And he's got a new one too. And and he does use parking areas down around his establishment. He has a relationship with Plains Auto and with other people in that area. So you do get people walking, and we've tried to facilitate that where they are actually in what is the fog line of the roadway, and the cones facilitate the ability for them to walk safely. So the parking restrictions are in place. As far as ingress, egress of his property, you can come in, it's wide open, so coming in and out, not an issue as far as pedestrians, if you ever had to move people for emergencies. Mark Nelson, the deputy chief from the fire department, has looked at it and has approved. Music and noise, we did have 1 year where Rob, and that's 2 years ago, 3 years ago? 2 years? 2 years ago. The stage was up higher. The volume actually carried over the building, as opposed to the year prior, it was down lower. So last year, he brought it back down lower, so the building itself buffers some of the noise.
And they play right into the woods.
And, right, and then we did get a couple of phone calls because, you know, we do have an 11 o'clock time on the music, and they played till 11:03. And we had told people that inquired beforehand that it was 11 o'clock. So them calling us, it's okay, that they did the right thing, but it was taken care of immediately.
And that was my fault.
No, it's all of our fault. But as he's mentioning, you know, it was a quick phone call from me. I spoke to him, it was done. The plug was pulled. So, lastly, there was some question as far as a couple of years ago, lyrics, this, et cetera, dealing with different bands. Rob is good enough as he's required in the application, but actually gives me more in-depth information on who the bands are, what they're about, DJs. I then go on to social media, you know, between Facebook and just Google and pull up and, you know, what
They're
I
very
just,
familiar to local venues already.
yeah, most of these bands actually play at Central Tavern, they play at Rob's Place, they play at other places within town, so, and most of them are in this local area. I know they just had the music awards. But, you know, for the benefit of the board, I still go on social media, I pull up exactly how they describe themselves, and it has mirrored any of the information that I've been provided through Rob.
Great. Rob, is there any? Sure.
I only won 2 awards this year instead of 3.
Congratulations. Bill, any questions?
No, I think, you know, what I've seen this evolve, and it's clear to me that the license holder, Rob, is interested in the same things this board is, and that is to have a safe event where you can further the music talents of people locally, satisfy a need locally for different types of food, operate a business safely. And I see that, as I said, it evolve. I think it's getting safer each year. I think the changes that you've made help neighbors along the way. You know, if I had to say what my number one concern is, it's not the lyrics and it's not the volume based on your adjustments that you've made. You've got an incredible challenge with parking and the safety of the people walking to their vehicles. And not only that, for the public safety officials that have to man that crosswalk, it's on a blind corner.
Yep.
And I know the chief does a great deal to light that, to put the signboard down the road so that people know they're coming up on a corner, that on the other side is pedestrians in the roadway. That's the concern that I have.
I have the same worry.
And I know that's the
Why I
concern.
got me a 1.
Yeah, that you have and the chief has. So I think we're aligned, and I think we've always been aligned. I think it was just a learning process. And I feel very comfortable in this venue. I participated in the extent that went down there, had something to eat,
I
had a
saw
beer
nothing.
last year, and it looked like everybody was having a great time and they were being safe, so.
I'm actually working on a deal for parking this year with the girl that owns Shaw's. The entire medical side.
Okay.
She'll let me use, because it's closed that day.
Okay.
If I can cut some kind of deal with Uber.
Yeah,
That was the other thing I was gonna mention. He's working
Great.
out a relationship with
It's like
Uber.
Yeah, it's like 150 spots. That's a lot to take off the road.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I appreciate everything that's been done. I appreciate the evolution of this process. I appreciate the work that you've done working cooperatively with the chief, so I don't have any concerns or comments further.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bill. Mike?
A couple of questions that I would have is, how many people do you expect at the event?
It's weather dependent, obviously.
Yeah,
Between anywhere from 4 to 7, 4 to 8, in and out.
so then I would turn it to you, chief. Do you think that, and that's your expertise, I'm not doubting you, 3 police officers is enough coverage?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
This particular event, we've had no issues whatsoever.
Okay,
You know, you coming into the evening hours, then you want to have the officers actually in the venue. When he says between 3 and 8, the average number that are probably there, the guesstimates I would put, you know, when I walk through early evening, they're probably in the range of 400, 450 people at that time. It is a turnover. People do come and go.
yeah.
It's a long day.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then there are particular bands that they want to come and listen to, so, you know, they kind of look at the lineup, they come down, and then they go elsewhere and come back.
Yeah, the only year that I heard concern was the year that I heard you on the radio the following day saying how you had moved around in your cruiser, kept getting out of the cruiser, and you had said, yeah, at some points but that was the only year, and I never heard anything ever again, like it got adjusted.
We got a
right?
little famous that year.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we had
It was
those
pointed
issues.
in a different direction. too.
Right, and it was up higher. It actually
Right.
was higher than the building. It was up on the hill in the back.
Yeah.
The band was, you
My
could,
fault.
you could see the band from a distance away, right over the building. He did a good job building a stage. But the other thing, I mean, just some of the parking on some of the side streets, so, you know, we've learned from that as well. So some of those, we cone the corners now. We prevent parking on one side to ensure that emergency vehicles can get in and out of those neighborhoods, as well as the people that live there. So, you know, working with Rob, and when you raise those issues, he's been nothing short of just cooperative.
And I know, Mike, you may be a little worried about the amount of people and only 2 cops. We probably know 75% of the people in that are there.
I'm sure it's a
So
different
it's just
environment.
very,
Yeah.
it's very self-policed.
To Bill's point, I would also say my biggest concern is people walking down 140. You know, I say the same thing every time I drive by Alicante up in Mendon, all those cars, and I say, people getting out of those cars, you know? But, no, I have no further questions, thank you.
Okay, great. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd move to approve the request for the one-day event as stipulated with the comments that the chief has made, both the police chief and fire chief, and the cooperation of the applicant. I'd move to approve their request for a one-day license.
Okay.
I would second that.
I'll also vote in favor of that. That's unanimous. And there's also for the one-day entertainment license, or did you include
I'd
that?
move, I did not. Thank you.
Second?
I'll second it.
All right. I also vote in favor. That's unanimous.
Lots of luck.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And a nice event.
Agreed.
It will be.
Good luck.
Thank you, Chief.
Take care.
And just in case you're wondering, the Music Social Award winning is on now.
I think we have a late night tonight, Rob.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night.
Take care.
And
Thank you.
Chief, while you're here, if we just want to move down to items F4 and F5 under new business, then we can let the chief go if there's any questions. The first item is a memo that we received from the police chief dated May 17th for a children's sign on Green Street in response to a letter that was sent to the Selectmen's office by Ms. Sherry Nadeau of 13 Green Street requesting a children warning sign. I believe that given that Green Street is utilized by motorists traveling between Route 140 and Route 16 in an attempt to avoid the lights at Milford Regional Medical Center, Route 16 and 140, and the number of single-family homes and apartment buildings where children reside, placement of a children warning sign at each end of Green Street is warranted. And again, that's from
Move
Chief
to
O'Loughlin.
approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second it?
2 vote in favor, that's unanimous. The second is, again, a memo we received from the police chief on May 24th regarding parking on Capitol Road. In response to the May 23rd, 2017 email from Ms. Beth McCarthy of 6 Capitol Road, I went to the area in question to make observations, and I concur with Ms. McCarthy's observations and recommendations to install fire lane tow zone signs from 6 Capitol Road to the intersection of Capitol Road and Congress Street. Presently, there is a fire lane tow zone on this same side of the street within the Groves apartment complex. This recommendation would extend that fire lane a short distance and would facilitate the movement of vehicular traffic, particularly emergency vehicles that could be impinged if vehicles are parked on both sides of the narrow street.
Mr. Chairman, the chief's notations and information provide me with sufficient information to make a motion to approve.
I as well agree. I second.
Make that unanimous. Have a good night.
Good night, chief.
Okay, next scheduled appointment is Mass Electric Verizon, Verizon New England regarding the joint pole location. Thank you, and thank you for your patience. Here's the agenda. Just please identify yourself for the public.
I'm
and-
Josh Stable. I work for National Grid. I'm an electrical engineer, so I'm qualified to speak on this behalf.
Great.
of the pole location.
Okay, this is regarding notice of public hearing for the town of Milford. Notice is hereby given that the Milford Board of Selectmen has received the following petition. Plan number 239-46580, received from the Massachusetts Electric Company and Verizon New England, Inc. The description is Rock Hill Road Pole Number 2. National Grid requests to relocate joint-owned pole number 2 and anchor Rock Hill Farm Road 25 feet to the left. The reason for the relocation is to help customers at 61 Madden Street navigate out of the driveway, without having a pole block vision. Existing pole number 2 to be removed once relocation is complete. Also for permission to lay and maintain the underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of said petitioners may desire for distributing purposes. And this is obviously scheduled for tonight, Monday, June 5th, 2017, in Room 3 at 7 PM. Abutters were invited to attend and hearing and participate in this discussion. Josh, it's all yours.
All right, so the reason for this relocation is it was actually asked by a fireman in town. He knows one of our fellow engineers who owns TD's Pub.
Yep.
He's very, very in with this community. And it was right on the guy's corner of his driveway, and it's on a hard corner. It's not a very busy area, but still, I wouldn't want to have to deal with that myself, so. So we just figured, move it over 25 feet and then relocate it, and then, like I said, once the new pole is up to hold the tension of the wire and the anchor for the corner, we would be removing the other pole out of his way, so.
Any questions from the board?
Well, it looks like you're doing it consistent with many of the other poles in the neighborhoods and putting it on the property line and away from. That
Correct.
25 feet makes a
Correct.
difference, especially if it's near a driveway. Makes perfect sense to me, Mr. Chairman.
Mike?
I would agree.
Great. We need a motion for this?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
okay.
So public hearing, I don't know if anybody's come.
I don't think, no.
Hey, Brian.
So I'd move to
Okay.
approve.
All right,
I'll second it.
I'll vote in favor. That's unanimous.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Josh. Have a good night.
Sorry you had to wait a little bit.
Don't worry about it.
Next, next agenda item is the town administrator's report. Rick?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A number of items tonight. First, I am pleased to report that Senator Fatman has informed me that he has included in the Senate budget the sum of $50,000 for the Milford Police and the JAG Regional Opiate Task Force Initiative. As you know, Representative Murray did the same, so now we'll await the governor. In conjunction with that, I think everyone knows, but I just want to report that the town of Hopedale did in fact, at their May town meeting, approve the sum of $5,000 for the Regional Task Force Initiative, and they're going to join Milford to help fight this most serious problem. So we thank them for doing that. One item with the senior center, there were needed repairs to the exterior of the senior center. They have now been completed. We were able to do it within budget. Specifically, we replaced siding and trim that was rotting, painting over that rotted trim, and also we painted 3 exterior doors, so I'm pleased to report that is done. I'm also pleased to report that Director Sue Clark has applied for and received a grant in the amount of $16,000 from the Metro West Health Foundation to the Milford Council on Aging for their wellness program. This grant money will be used to help pay for trainers at the wellness room, which is at the second floor of the senior center. One final item regarding the senior center, I want to just thank Facilities Director Carlos Benjamin and volunteer worker Brett Crosby for spreading mulch at the senior center. Their hard work is most appreciated, and they did an excellent job. Two remaining items. The Route 16 TIP project, I would like to remind everyone there will be a public hearing on this project on Tuesday, June 20, 2017, at 6:30 p.m. at Upper Town Hall. The purpose of the hearing is to provide the public with the opportunity to become fully acquainted with the proposed Route 16 project. All views and comments made at the hearing will be reviewed and considered to the maximum extent possible. This project extends about 3/4 of a mile from Water Street to Milford, west to Aden Street in Hopedale. Also includes 150 feet of Aden Street and 650 feet of Route 140, Prospect Street and Cape Road. The improvements will include new signals, geometric improvements and dedicated turning lanes at the Route 16, Route 140 intersection, new roadway pavements, new sidewalks, and ADA-compliant wheelchair ramps, drainage improvements, as well as a 5-foot roadway shoulder for bicycle accommodation. One final item, for the past probably about a year, I've been researching opportunities to convert our town streetlights to LED lighting. Presently, there appear to be 2 options available. The first would be to seek a grant from the Department of Energy Resources. They are offering a 30% grant on the labor and material costs. This would require the town to purchase and own the streetlights. Due to the age of the lights, my inquiry with National Grid suggests that the cost would be minimal or possibly no cost. We do have approximately 1,757 streetlights. Should the town pursue this option, there would be an upfront cost. For example, the town of Franklin has applied for such a grant, and the total cost is estimated to be around $600,000. I would expect our cost would be similar. We would then be obligated to pay all maintenance, repair, and replacement costs, as we would in fact own the lights at that time. There is a second option that I've explored. National Grid has a program that's starting this summer. They have a program to convert to LED streetlights as part of an energy efficiency program. National Grid would convert all the streetlights to LED streetlights at no cost to the town. They would continue to maintain, repair, and replace the new LED lights. The projected annual savings to the town, based upon our current rate, would be between $19,000 and $28,000 per year. In addition, if we were to pursue this option, the town would receive an energy efficiency incentive that is projected to be between $90,000 and $104,000. So if we were to pursue that, it would kind of be business as usual, but would also have the LED lights in place. That's a new program that they're instituting. I've met with Bob Russell on that. So I would like to explore a little bit more on each, but those, as I see it, are the two alternatives. It is clear to me that we should, and obviously, do something to convert to the LED streetlights. It makes perfect sense, and this is the time to do it.
Great. Bill, is there anything you wanted to comment on that? I know that you had talked about that in the past.
No, yeah, owning the streetlights is something that wouldn't make economic sense to me, but the proposal that allows us to work with National Grid, change those lights, and, because it is the taxpayers that are paying to light them. So it's just important to remember, while we don't have obligation for maintenance of the poles or any of that, we do pay for the lighting of those lights. And if they're, LED and more economic, in terms of, and I also think a lot of times they're more efficient lighting.
Yes.
They provide for better lighting. This glowing yellow light that's awfully dim is sometimes difficult for some neighbors, and I know the more light, the more they feel safe. So I appreciate you following up on that, Rick. And do they give you any sense of timing, how long it would take? I know there's over 1,000 poles, as you said.
Approximately a year.
A year. So,
It would take some time, so.
so if we enter into this agreement, I know you're not looking for any vote tonight, nor do I think one is warranted, other than to maybe send them a letter.
That would be the next step with National Grid, to send them to a letter that we would like to participate in the program.
Yes.
And that would get the ball rolling. I was hopefully prepared to come back next meeting and request that from the board, if that's the opportunity that they would like to pursue. that
Well,
you would-
depending on how the board feels about it, and the different options that you mentioned, I don't think there's anything wrong with sending them a letter now.
Okay.
You could structure it such, but I haven't heard from the other board members. No, just in general, I don't want to let the opportunity pass to congratulate Sue Clark on the wellness grant of $16,000 for that grant, and it's much appreciated. And she's obviously continuing to add services to the senior center and to the residents of this community, and she's running some great programs. Other than that, I'll defer to the other members on the letter.
Okay, Mike?
The only comment, if anybody wants to see I'm not saying they're gonna be exactly, but if anybody wants to see the new LED lighting, the hospital parking lot has a new LED lighting, as the inside of the hospital also has a new, you look at all the fixtures are gone, and we just converted Imperial. Imperial's parking lot is all done over with the new LED lightings, all inside the building, and literally, when they take them down, it's a strip that long, maybe that wide, but the difference in the lighting and the efficiency is,
There are
and the
actually
cost
two
savings.
levels of lighting that I probably would look to see what the chief and the highway surveyor might
Yeah.
like to see, to get
Maybe we
their
should,
opinion.
different lighting in different places.
And
Yeah.
that is an option also, and the town engineer possibly
Yeah,
to confer.
and I don't know how they would hang them from a pole. Of course, in the parking lots at the hospital and Imperial, they're pole alone, I don't know how they would do it, but they're,
Yeah, they
the
provide all
difference as
equipment,
far
all
as,
maintenance, yeah.
how bright they are. Whew.
So Mike, you'd be amenable to sending a letter of interest and
Absolutely.
having Rick make the next step?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the consensus, we
Okay,
should.
I'll take care of that.
Absolutely. All right, great. Anything else, Rick?
No, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anything
Thank
else
you.
regarding Bill, Mike, from the town administrator's report? Any old business? I do not have any. Bill?
You know, I had asked Rick and hadn't gotten feedback yet. Rick, I just wanted to see, I know there was a request, there was no lighting on Treadle Drive, and I didn't know if you had a chance to work with town engineer to see what the plan is.
I don't have that information yet. I have reached out to him, but, and I think there was another location also, yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
Mike?
No?
All right. To move on to new business. Rick, back to you regarding the process for an appointment of a new town accountant.
Yes, as you know, our town accountant is moving on. Before you is a timeline to appoint, process to appoint, and an ad. Basically, we're unfortunately reaching the Beacon summer schedule, so we wouldn't be able to post there or publicize there until July 20th. We would also advertise in the MA Municipal Association, the MMA website. Basically, we'd be closing the time to submit applications on August 8th. We would then have myself and the finance director, as well as the board, review all submitted applications. And then we would look to interview and recommend to the board 3 candidates to be interviewed by the board. Obviously, the selectmen would participate in the candidates to be interviewed. Our current accountant is staying into, well into July, so I've talked to Zach.
Oh, great.
And he thinks that we can meet this timeline without question. So that's kind of what we were looking to do, with the board's input tonight.
Bill, anything you want to add or comment on regarding the process?
I think the process that the finance director and Rick have put together makes sense to me.
Okay, great. Mike?
Yeah, I agree. The only question I would have is, do we have any in-house candidates that could be moved? Or is-
I don't know if we would or not.
Okay.
Obviously, anybody in-house that thought they could meet the qualifications, we would welcome they apply.
Okay.
But,
Okay, no, very well done.
Great. Well, Rick, I think you have unanimous support to move on with that process.
Yeah, we'll get that out tomorrow. Yep, thank you.
All right. Next, you have an awarding of a contract for HVAC maintenance?
Yeah, this is our contract for HVAC and maintenance for basically 10 town buildings. We did put it out to bid. We had a number of contractors and firms pull the bid specs. We only had one respond with an actual bid. It's E&E Systems. They're the ones that are currently serving us and have been for a while. I have put together a contract based on the specs for the board's consideration. So they've been very good on maintenance and service, and Carlos has been very happy with their service.
And they're a known entity, that's for sure.
Yeah, so obviously I'd be looking for the board to award, and if the board is okay with the agreement that I put in front of you, to sign that agreement. If the board would like more time, we do have time. The agreement wouldn't take effect until July 1st.
I certainly don't have an issue, especially since they're our current provider right now. Bill, any questions, or?
No, if we're having success with our current provider, we're fortunate they reapplied. They reapplied with, it's competitive anyway, even though there aren't other bids when I look at the dollars and compare it to the last one, so I don't have any questions.
It kept it the same
Yeah,
the first
and
year. as to
concerns?
what we're currently paying now.
So,
Mike?
Interesting question, that they're the only company that replied.
We have, a lot of them took out specs. We actually had a pre-bid walkthrough. We have some very specific equipment that
Unique.
it is unique, and you need licensed contractors, and I think a lot of them were scared away maybe by that.
it's 10 buildings, so it's a lot of buildings.
It is 10 buildings. Again, the youth center now is much more on board than it was in the past also.
Yeah, it may have gotten a little easier there, and don't expect a lot of repairs or replacements for work there, so. I would be willing to make a motion to accept the bid that Rick has recommended. And specifically, let me make sure I get this correctly. Company name.
E&E Systems, Inc.
Okay, for E&E Systems, Inc., for the dollars outlined in the bid contract provided to the board. And we can all sign it or authorize, you can just all sign it. You've got a copy now.
Yep.
So that, my motion would be to accept the single bid with E&E.
I would second that.
And I'll make that unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Oh, you're up again. Next agenda item is regarding the Milford Water Company rate increase proposal.
Yes, I'm sorry. The board received a letter. There's one from town council and obviously one from council for the water company. They intend to seek a general base rate increase pursuant to Mass General laws. And town council has filed a letter and a request that seeking a board vote to authorize his office to file an intervention on behalf of the board once they finalize their formal filing with DPU. So I believe that's what's been done.
So as of right now, we don't know what the rate increase that they're actually asking for, or?
I don't. I've seen numbers in the paper, which I think 20% was the
Okay.
figure that I saw in the newspaper.
Yeah, I noticed there obviously wasn't anything in the
But
letter.
there's nothing
so-
that I've been formally advised on as to an exact percentage or anything like that.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess we have to decide whether or not we want town council to move on our behalf and intervene. Bill, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's been consistent through the history of the time I've been here, that each time there was a rate case, the Board of Selectmen have voted to authorize council to intervene on behalf of the ratepayers. I would support that again and be willing to make the motion. I'd move to have Jerry file intervening status for the board with the DPU.
The only question that I would have, and Will and I had conversation about this when I first walked into the room, is I don't understand how you can file for a rate increase when you can't supply the products.
I think they just got a boost in their inventory just recently.
You know, you know, we've got the water ban going already, you know. And I said to Will, I had a gentleman come see me at the dealership. He spent $3,500 on his lawn already, and now he's got down to 1 day a week. On the even day, he can run his irrigation system, you know, so.
So I guess you won't have a problem seconding that motion for an intervention.
No, I won't.
I appreciate that, Mike. I don't think you mixed words about that at all. No, thank you both. I'll also vote in favor of that intervention and make that unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had to make that point, I'm sorry.
No, I'm glad you did. No, I think people need to know where we are regarding all of this that's going on around us. We took care of items 4 and 5 while the police chief were here. Item 6 is for the Downtown Revitalization Committee. The town administrator received an email from the chairman of the Downtown Revitalization Committee, Ron Pagnini, looking for support of asking us to support Laura Mann, who's a well-known lawyer in town who's very much vested in this and would like to be a formal member of the committee. There's a pleasure for the board.
I'd move to add Laura Mann to the Downtown Revitalization Ad Hoc Committee.
I would second that as well.
All right, and I'll make that unanimous. Thank you, and you'll let Laura know formally?
Yes, I will.
All right, thank you, Rick.
Great person.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Rick, you're up again for the referendum for the retail marijuana ballot
There
question.
was an inquiry from the board as to possibly setting a date for a referendum question on the operation of marijuana retailing in Milford. I spoke with Town Clerk Amy Neves. We kind of looked at the calendar. There are some holidays that come after the September 19th, so we were looking, I think, at September 19th, 2017, for the referendum question here in Milford.
September 19th?
September 19th, I'm sorry.
And this is, just for clarity, Rick, this is for recreational marijuana and having nothing to do with medical marijuana.
That's correct, yes. Distinguish between the two, yes.
Pleasure of the board.
Well, I think we've talked about this at length regarding the referendum that was put forward on a statewide ballot. Within that documentation, within that referendum, and what town voters in Milford and across the state approved was the opportunity for communities to opt in or out, and specifically in this case, the way the language works is to opt out. So I would be in favor of setting the date for September 19th for a referendum. I'd also be in favor of presenting the language summary and ballot question that's outlined by town council.
That's great.
I would second that.
All right. I'll also vote to make that unanimous, and I think the language is very clear, because I think it's obviously very important. People know exactly how they're voting and what their vote actually means, especially with some referendum questions. And obviously, we can hopefully work with Amy to make sure that this is publicized best it can be.
Yeah, she started
Which is
notifying
always,
precincts and
great.
and so the availability and what have you, yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Next, we have a one-day, application for a one-day pouring license for Cafe Sorrento at 143 Central Street in Milford. This is for all alcoholic beverages, Sunday, June 25th, 2017, from 1 to 6. It's his annual clam bake on the, was at the North Bow Street parking lot, and it is a nonprofit going, again, to the Marine Building Fund.
I'd move to approve that one-day license for the dates provided, the date provided Sunday, June 25th.
One second.
I'll make that unanimous. Next is the acceptance of a gift for the Milford Police Department. This is from Benjamin Moore on 49 Sumner Street. State law enforcement gift in the amount of $2,500. That's a very generous gift.
They've been very generous over the years, and it's an ongoing thing, and hopefully their revenue picture looks, continues to look positive, and just want to thank them for their generosity.
No, I appreciate
Make a motion to move, approve.
Okay.
Second.
I'll make that unanimous as well.
You know what else they're very generous, Bill, is the youth center.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Next agenda is Milford Fire Department permit to obstruct for a toll road. Let's see, this
Move
is
to
for.
approve
Oh,
September 9th.
yep, and that's for MDA Fill the Boot.
I second that.
I'd vote in favor of that as well. That's unanimous. I have quite a few things under new business. Bill, any new business you'd like to bring up?
I do, and some of it comes on the heels, so whether it's new business or old business is always a question. So I'll say it's new business because it's a home that recently had an OD, and I want the board to be able to come up to speed on the number of instances. I know we've talked about it, and there has been some criminal cases filed. I'd like the board to come up to speed, so what I'd ask is that for the property on Highland Street that recently had an OD, that we bring the board up to speed since the last time we've talked about it.
Okay.
I think it's important that this board understand it. I've had some correspondence with the chief. I think it's best if we get one letter out to everybody. 75 Highland, I think, is the number.
That's, okay, I'm sorry, the letter to,
Letter to bring the board up to speed
okay,
on
sure, okay.
the number of
Yep.
public safety incidents. How's that?
Okay, sure, I can take care of
General,
that.
and he can
I'll
outline
speak with
it.
the chief, yep, okay, yep.
All right, thanks, Bill. Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Mike?
The only one I have is, Rick, I was gonna ask you if you could have the building inspector look at the, it's not even a gas station anymore, the pumps are disconnected across from Dunkin' Donuts down here. Out on the outside on the sidewalk, you got tires piled all the way up in front of the windows. You know, they're supposed to be inside the building.
Is that right down the street here?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
At Missoula's old station.
Former Capitol, yeah.
You know, it's becoming an eyesore.
I'm glad you mentioned
Good
that,
catch.
Mike.
Yeah.
Because we should also look at the amount of storage and debris and whatnot in the back.
Yeah, and it might be an educational thing. He just doesn't know.
Okay,
We've been down there a lot.
Yeah, we could look into that.
okay.
Anything else, Mike?
Nope.
Okay. This is a kind of probably an unorthodox request, but I'm hoping for support from the board. I'm not sure, it has to do with the health insurance, health insurance committee that we have, chaired, I think, still by Peter Filosa, who comes here every year. I did have someone reach out to me who's made different phone calls to the membership and to Kelly Capisi, and they actually, Kelly actually recommended, saying, well, maybe you should be on the board, be on the committee. I'm just not sure, is that committee, do you know if that committee was established and there's a specific number of people and positions on it, or is it something that we could add to?
I honestly don't know, so if I could get an opportunity to get back to you on it.
Okay, no, I'd appreciate that, and just so she's certainly not unfamiliar to our board, it was Lena McCarthy, who's a Milford retiree, obviously a planning board member,
Talk to Lena.
and very involved, and she asked me tonight if we could consider adding her to that committee, and if there is room or it isn't specified, I would very much like to do that, and I just wanted to know the feedback from you gentlemen, if there's any reason that we
No,
wouldn't
I'd
want to do that.
No, I'd want to do that.
Absolutely. No problem at all.
All right, so if you can get back to that, I mean, because I think they start meeting again in September. I know they only take a couple of months off and they get right back into preparing for the next year. So I'd want to get her on as soon as possible, so if we can do that and then get that done.
I'll get back to the board quickly on that.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Rick. The second is, we're already been talking earlier tonight about the, a referendum and other election date changing and things like that. And I know we were all on an email from the town clerk, Amy Neves, where she actually included a lot of information, and she had a good idea about maybe her co-chairing a group that maybe this board would be willing to set up, and I appreciated her stepping up to do that, because, we all wear a lot of hats and are quite busy. I'd like to maybe get your feedback, Rick, if you can work with Amy and kind of present to us what maybe a nice size working group would be or would include, and see how we can get some people appointed to that, because I think, coming even into this referendum, having an election date, or at least in the fall, probably a good time for them to start anyway. Because I know, I've heard a lot about, and I think this board was certainly supportive of possibly moving our town elections from April to May,
Oh, okay.
like other towns, just to get out of the snow and rain. Or at least the cold rain. But there was also a lot of other things that Amy brought up about possible polling location changes and things, and literally take a look at the whole concept and what needs to be included, and, after, should we reach out to the schools, rather than having all these different polling locations? And again, not saying we should, but these are the topics of conversation that I think this group needs to have. And after the federal census, we may be changing precincts again, or adding a precinct, she mentioned.
Okay, sure.
And this is for the express purpose of trying to increase our voter participation.
Turnout, exactly.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense.
Great.
17,000 registered voters and less than 3,000 vote.
Yes.
Well, Bill and I were out there.
We gave them choices.
All right, no, that's great, so if we can get that back. Something else I wanted to bring up and talk to the board about was a result of the last town meeting. And these are some things that I think that working group could certainly work out, because there were quite a few folks that grabbed my ear, and rightfully so, after the last town meeting, that maybe we should talk to the town moderator and to the town clerk about, if we're gonna potentially have that many articles, and go to a second day, maybe stopping at 12:30 or 1:45 in the morning isn't the time to stop, and maybe having a hard stop at 10 o'clock, knowing you're gonna go to a second night, is probably a lot more customer friendly for our town meeting members. Again, waking up the next morning was a little rough. 5 o'clock came early, and we all had a late night, and a lot of the folks were telling me, hey, Will, you're still younger than we are, and, this was late.
I couldn't agree more.
So I'd like to at least,
And whatever time
include
that
that.
is, right, if it's 10, 11. And, Mr. Chairman, I'm glad you brought this up, because we want to include more people in town meeting. And the way not to do it is to have meetings adjourned at 12:30. I know I had 4 interviews the next day for a new position. I'd like to think I was at my best, but I know I wasn't. I just think that we can do a little better. I know everybody wants to get through it, but I think you reach a point of diminishing returns at some point during that evening. And, I think we can give more thoughtful discussion and debate to articles if we're fresh and it's not 12:30 at night. So hard stop is good. I think those proposals ought to come forward. I'm trying to think of what other things, because, you know, I think there are mothers that would like to participate in this. And in some cases, moms are not able to, you know, whether they're, you know, nursing mom, or whatever. The point really is, we need to get a broader cross-section of the community involved in town meeting. And it doesn't always have to be more senior members of the community in terms of age. It can be younger people, and reach out to a broader group. And I think one of the ways is to do exactly as you're talking about. And maybe we just get this to that committee and that recommendation to look for a hard stop if we think we're going. You know, if we have 14 more articles, I think at some point at 12:30 at night, had a vote gone on to launch nuclear missiles at Russia, we might have done that.
Well, I feel the same way.
I don't know.
No, I agree.
Anything might have passed at some point.
I think,
Yeah, you know, what do you say to that?
I think a couple of things. I think when you
I
sit.
did not make that motion, by the way, for the record, of press that are here.
When you're sitting in the front of the room and you're looking at the town meeting members as the night is going on, you can slowly see people trickling out the back door, and I'm sitting there saying to myself, geez, if there's a really important article that happens to be down the end of the warrant, we're gonna be in serious, serious trouble here.
And I'm not worried about the ones that leave. I'm worried about the ones that stay and are asleep.
They sleep, yeah,
Right?
yeah. So I agree 100%. I think we need to look into it, and you go into it knowing, you know, Monday night, say it's 10 o'clock, it ends at Monday night, 10 o'clock, you know, you give them a break on Tuesday, Wednesday night, you adjourn for the second end of it. So it's not night to night, you give them breaks, you know, and I agree. I think by doing something like that, we'll get a lot more participation at town meeting, and we won't always be waiting for a quorum.
Yep, no, I think that's great. And another follow-up request I have, Rick, because of that meeting was, I know we spent, all joking aside, I know we spent a very long time talking about the chickens, but what I did learn that actually bothered me greatly was the fact that people are paying hundreds of dollars to go before the ZBA and possibly not have a positive outcome. What I'd like to know is, and maybe that's me being ignorant, I've just never had to deal with the ZBA privately or personally, so can I get a schedule of fees associated with that? Because I think I'm gonna want this board to take a hard look at that, because these are our taxpayers that are coming before, and again, I understand to a certain rate whether we have to talk about a sliding scale if you're gonna put in $1 million building or development, but if people are spending $2.35 each on a chicken, and then spending $350 to find out they can't have them, I wanna at least be a little bit more customer friendly than that. I was actually kind of surprised and a little upset at that. I just think that's an exorbitant amount of money for some things, so.
We've not updated our fee schedule since both of you came on board, so I think reviewing our entire fee schedule makes sense.
Well, that's even better. Let's wrap it all up and whatever fees we have. But that just struck me. So I don't think that's fair. And sometimes we make rules, not knowing that there's these other one-offs and exceptions. Also, Rick, if we can, and now I'm totally jumping, we did receive, this board received a letter from the Board of Assessors on May 31st regarding the coordination of permits and inspections. And our building commissioner also very quickly wrote a response to that letter. But they do want to have a joint meeting, and that's something I spoke about the night you gentlemen elected me chairman, to have these joint meetings where people who have separate authority, not under us, but are peers of us. So I would like to see if we can get a meeting maybe the week from today, or at some point. Are you
We did
traveling?
Look at something as mutually,
Yeah,
why
I
don't
just,
we look
I
at
just don't want to do it
availability?
this week, so I just don't want it any earlier. Because I know this is
problem.
probably short notice already. If it's 2 weeks out, I don't think that's gonna be
Okay.
a negative, but I'd rather just make sure we do it no earlier than next week. But I would like a night where all three of us can be here.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll coordinate with you guys first, and.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That
Put some
way,
dates to them.
and then some dates that maybe you are all available, we can make sure we got a room, and
No, yeah, that'd be great, just because I don't want this to go a month, but I do want to make sure that we give them the attention. Again, this is another independently elected board that's reaching out to us, so we should at least meet with them and see if we can, see what we can work out and
You know,
go from there.
Will, to your, on the licensing fees, Bill and I, coming from the private sector, have started this conversation back and forth, and we call them taxpayers, but the way that we look at it, they're our customers.
Absolutely.
We provide to them a service, and they're our customers, and we use as an example, the woman that got up at town hall, a town meeting, and spoke about the sign for the,
Arts,
what?
the arts.
The arts, you know, and, you know, we look at her, that's our customer, you know, and we need to change our thought process, and when people are communicating with us, if they have an issue going on, a parking, light, or whatever, we need to respond, you know, not that we don't, I'm not saying we don't, but we need to look at these people as their customers. They're customers of ours, and we need to make sure that, just like in corporate world, we're taking care of them 110%, not 100%.
Well said.
And to that point, Mike, maybe we could ask the town administrator to have the building inspection department reach back out to that woman who spoke at town meeting and see if they can get back to him and clarify anything. It seems like she had some confusion about what may or may not have been allowed, and I think we can clarify what the bylaws are and reach out to our customer who had a question and follow up with her.
I can get you her information. If you don't have it, I know her.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be looking at YouTube.
Well, I could watch it, yeah.
Yeah,
If
okay.
you have it, though, that would be great.
Call you tomorrow with it.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Rick, my last, finally, my last item of new business is the American Legion Post 59, as most of us are probably well aware, did receive notice and are hosting the state tournament this year, which they haven't done since 2005. And I meant to bring it in because it's in my truck, the book, their program from 2005. They actually had a letter of support and congratulations from the Board of Selectmen in there, as well as the Parks Department, and I think a couple other town boards that, I'll get you those. I mean, there's no sense in reinventing the wheel, but I do want to make sure it's updated and that it's a good heartfelt congratulations from them.
Yeah, I've
It's a
spoken with Chris on this.
Right,
Chris Wilcox,
it's a big deal, and we're out there now raising money to get into the program, and I just don't want that to be held off till last minute. So I'm glad he reached out to you too. He said he was going to at our
A
meeting.
while ago.
So,
Yeah,
good.
Chris is always up.
Oh, he's on the ball.
Chris is always there, yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, next is correspondence. Okay, we have a number of these. The first one is a letter of resignation from Harold Rhodes. He is asking us to accept his resignation from the Milford Commission on Disability effective June 30th. I think we all know that Harold put a lot of personal time and effort and everything into this. And he's just saying that, quite simply, that it's time for someone new on that board. So if there's a motion to accept his resignation?
I'd move to accept the resignation, also send him a letter thanking him for his service on behalf of those with disabilities in our community.
I would second that.
Vote in favor as well, and that's unanimous. Next, we have a resignation letter effective immediately from Kristen Kibbe. She's asking for us to accept her letter of resignation from the Milford Youth Commission. She says it's been her pleasure to serve the Milford Youth Center, but unfortunately, my recent return to work in a full-time capacity does not afford me the time to serve effectively in this position. And again, I greatly appreciate that. I don't know if you can say a couple of words about Kristen, but I know she's been a valuable member.
Very valuable and very dedicated, you know, and should be missed, absolutely.
I appreciate that. Is there a motion to accept her letter of resignation?
Yeah, I'd move that we regretfully accept her resignation and thank her on behalf, or for her work on behalf of the children of the community.
And Mike, that's seconded, and I'll make that unanimous. And then it's just the pleasure of the board. We got a letter from Jen Ward, the director of the Milford Youth Center, they have a recommendation, the board itself, on filling that vacancy. I don't know if we want to take action here tonight, or we're going to be making appointments in the next couple of weeks. Is that the next June meeting?
June 19th would be
June
the
19th,
next-
when we want to make our
would be the next,
appointments. So it's really the pleasure of the board. We can do them all on the 19th, or,
What letter are we talking about?
oh, did you not have that in your packet?
Replacement.
Okay. Well, do we want to do it on June 19th with all the other, so you have information? I'm not sure. Did you have that information as well? Okay.
I know I passed it, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You know what? It makes sense to do it on the
Yeah, we all
19th
at
anyway
once.
when we're doing all of those. Okay.
Otherwise, we'd be reappointing in June 19th.
Oh, that's right, because that would end anyway.
Expire.
Okay. We have another letter of resignation. I'm going to read this letter. Dear Chairman Kincaid, it is with regret that I am submitting my resignation from the Finance Committee effective immediately. I have worked with the board through both good times and difficult times, always trying to do the right thing for the town and its citizens. We haven't always succeeded, but in the long run, the town is a better place financially than it was when I joined the committee. We are in an enviable financial position among the state's 351 cities and towns, with a positive cash flow and a number of large capital projects completed without an override or debt exclusion, while still having debt capacity and excess levy capacity. With recent significant events, I feel that I no longer being an effective member of the committee, so it is time to step down and allow the younger team members to step up and make their mark. It was an honor to have served the community for almost 20 years as a member and chairman of the Milford Finance Committee. I hope that what has been accomplished during my tenure will continue to be built upon with success, and that is sincerely from Mark Shane. I do want to say that Mark did serve this town exceptionally well and with a lot of time and effort over the last 20 years. He's a friend as well as my next-door neighbor, and I know firsthand how much time he's put in on this. So I'm sad to see him leave, but I understand too that if this is what's best for him, then I support that. Is there a motion to accept?
Yeah, I agree with your comments. I would make a motion to accept with regret and thank him for his service to the community. But beyond that, I would challenge school committee members, finance committee members, to demonstrate the knowledge of how foundation budgets are built and to explain Department of Revenue requirements as thoroughly as Mark knows them and understands them. He has a great deal of institutional knowledge and the big shoes to fill. So I just wanted to say that, because there are people walking around with a general knowledge of town finances, but not the depth of understanding, and frankly, not the understanding of the laws and how budgets are actually created and the requirements that we have that he might have and he leaves with. But I understand his choice, and I would send him a letter thanking him for his community service over the number of 20 years.
Again, I would comment on saying, as a member, as chairman of the Youth Commission and chairman of the school committee and member of the school committee, Mark and I have had our fair share of disagreements, as you're going to. But I don't think you could replace his passion for the community. He has the community's, best hearted interest at all times, and I think he's done a phenomenal job. I think the whole finance committee has, but I agree, he'll be missed, but he must feel personally it's time to step aside at this point of his life and move on. So I just would like to say a special thanks.
I appreciate that, and I'll also vote in favor and make that unanimous. And we'll give him a few months off before we find him something to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let him have too much time on his hands. Okay, and
No need to read this for anybody. Mike can read it, I think.
Mike, do you wanna read it?
No, you can read it. You're the chairman.
This is a letter of correspondence from our colleague, Michael Walsh Sr. Rick, I'm informing you of my plans to resign from the Milford Youth Commission. My involvement with the Milford Board of Selectmen and the Milford School Committee has not allowed me to fully commit the required time to the center. I have thoroughly enjoyed my service to the youth of this community, but I feel I can no longer serve to the fullest extent that they deserve. Sincerely, Michael Walsh Sr.
Yeah, I don't think anybody understands it better, Mr. Chairman, the time and demands as a member of the Board of Selectmen. That being said, Mike, I can say it to you and not have to send you a letter. Thank you on behalf of this community
Thank you.
for your service to the children.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you too, Mike.
Thank you,
because,
thank you.
I know your schedule had to be wearing thin.
Well, that and there's some great people on the list now waiting to get in and get involved with the kids.
Good.
So,
Well,
yeah.
on June 19th, we'll have to, we're going to look to you to make some recommendations.
Okay, I will.
All right, and I'll second the letter of resignation. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, I think that is everything for our regularly scheduled meeting. We do have an extensive executive session. We'll be dealing with the water company, the town council's contract, the town council's policy dealing with claims, public auction, and the fire chief's contract and medical bills associated with the fire department. Have a good night.
Good night.
I'm going to take it.
Oh, motion.
We need a motion.
Motion to
and a
adjourn
vote.
and go in.
Oh, yep.
I'd make a motion to adjourn the regular session and go into executive session for the purposes outlined by the chairman.
I would second that.
And I'll vote in favor as well. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you and have a good night.